I'm Akilah, and I was hired as a research assistant here at Macalester last summer, working in the Environmental Studies Department, looking at the impacts of climate change specifically in St. Paul, and creating a document, a citizen's guide, resident's guide to those impacts and how people can adapt to them. So I spent a lot of time interviewing local organizations and on how weather impacted the people that they worked with, talking to public officials, and just a wide variety of people on this issue. So that's why I'm up here with this PowerPoint. Basically what Kristen already went over, the three things that we're expecting to see are stronger thunderstorms, hotter, more humid summers, and warmer, icier winters. This is the overview, what ended up on our whiteboards in our office for the duration of the summer, and is kind of the framework that we hung the rest of our document and research on. Storms, hotter summers, a lot of these impacts overlap, but these are what we'll be seeing here in St. Paul. So I can go over them in a little bit more detail in the next few slides. So first, the severe storms. We talked a little bit about this with the flooding and things like that. And the graphic that you were talking about with having both the flood and the drought warnings at the same time is over here from August of 2007. That happened another time. I don't have the year and graphic up here, but that's been happening more and more frequently in Minnesota. Non-tornadic thunderstorms are the most frequently occurring weather catastrophe type based on insurance losses in the Midwest. So it's going to be a big problem. That's, if anyone remembers the storm from this summer, and I believe it was the end of June. It was the third largest power outage in Minnesota history. We had about 80,000 homes that were without power. And of course, in a situation like that, the things people are going to get up and running first are going to be the hospitals and essential places like that. So homes can be without power for a long time, which, while it may seem like an inconvenience, can actually be a huge hazard. Food goes bad in refrigerators if people don't have air conditioning or heating. That can cause health problems, and getting people out there. It also causes a lot of infrastructure damage, and in city areas, we have a lot of paved area. So gasoline from cars, oil from cars, and pollutants and things that are lying around on our sidewalks, pavements, and parking lots. When you have a thunderstorm like this, they can't just gently run off into sewers and things like that. Storm sewers get blocked and backed up by things. And that also causes runoff, which I know there's some of the lakes around in the Twin Cities area have seen increases in algal blooms and things like that due to the pollution, which also has implications for our drinking water and health hazards like that. So falling trees, also a health and infrastructure and property problem, as illustrated there. Power outages, flash flooding is of course dangerous. Food availability and pollution are some of the big ones for that. Keep going. Hotter, humid summers, we already went over a lot of this, Chicago heat wave and things like that. St. Paul will see about one heat wave like that Chicago heat wave every summer by 2050. And with the heat, especially again in an urban area, the urban heat island exacerbates that. And for the infrastructure impacts, the buckling of the roads and separating causes a lot of issues as well. We have talked to a lot of people where you end up with roads that become nearly impassable because of some of the fluctuation there. So I'm going to kind of skip past it because I think we already talked about most of that. Warmer, icier winters. Warmer winters probably sounds great, especially on a day like today or the past few days that we've had. But while Minnesotans can deal with snow, we are not so fond of ice, which is what we're going to see if things start to get warmer. Again, that also causes problems with the road infrastructure and the survival of the pests that Kristen was talking about. So having more pest survival through the winter means that we'll have more crop losses during the summer, stronger strains of pests that survive, and also the vector-borne diseases.
Can you speak up?
Sure, sorry. And we also have the power outages again in the winter, which can be really, really detrimental. And in urban areas where we have more of the transportation problems, we can get a lot of bottlenecks in getting resources to people or in getting people to resources such as cooling centers. And we did a lot of research on who would be the most vulnerable, the most impacted, and as Kristen was talking about, elderly folks, low-income neighborhoods, people of color, and recent immigrants was one of the big categories, because these are people who are coming from places that don't have similar weather patterns, they don't know how to deal with it, they don't know when they should deal with it, and they don't know what's available in order to deal with it. So recent immigrant communities was one of the places we're looking at, especially in the Twin Cities. Kind of the two big changes a lot of people are looking at for this area for the next few years is that it is an immigrant hub. It'll have a huge increase in those demographics. And if you factor in climate refugees, that will also cause an overall increase in immigration. And pairing that with climate change leads to a rather precarious situation, possibly in getting resources to be available.
Question.
Yes?
All right, so in light of this polar vortex that we're experiencing this winter, how do we respond to individuals who say, oh, it's not getting warmer in the winter?
Well, I was listening actually when Paul Douglas was talking about this last night, saying that, I mean, weather is going to be weather, people are going to look out the doors and do that no matter what, but climate is the overall trend of weather. And he was pointing out that, you know, we used to have polar vortexes, it used to get this cold way more often, and now it happens once, and people freak out because it's so abnormal. So saying, yes, you're right, we are having a polar vortex, and when was the last time you remember that happening? This used to be, you know, we used to get negative 20 temperatures, you know, every winter, and now that's become so much less frequent. So taking this polar vortex as an opportunity to say, yes, something has changed, you're not used to this. Is, you know, kind of the way that he explained it, something I think is a really powerful way of bringing it up in this context.
He also talked about the weakened jet stream and the fact that we are seeing weather get stuck, so that these events that we're having, California with its drought, prolonged drought, is, and one of the reasons that they're pointing to the weakened jet stream is the melting of the ice in the Arctic, that, you know, it's a positive feedback loop.
Yeah. And some of that is people's total lack of awareness of what's going on globally.
Correct.
I'm trying to tell them that maybe you need to play tennis in Australia.
Exactly.
I'm a resident of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm not here in school, and so, I mean, translating some of that to people here, saying, we're going through all sorts of droughts. You know, there's cities that or towns that have completely run out of water. Yeah. It's not that they can't drill deep enough; it's that there's nothing.
That's why I was interested, but I didn't get the information. But I would hope to leave with that his Weather Channel, Weather Nation, apparently does a global
climate change thing,
review once. I don't know how often he did it, but. Anyway, the global story is just part of a big part of the story.
Yeah. And a lot of people try and relate to that, but don't realize that the global story also impacts them personally. Right. That, you know, the loss of the polar bears might have some implication for them as well. Usually we just think of climate change as kind of this really vague, far away idea, which it's going to hit very, very close to home for all of us. So, just to wrap up, this is a little bit about just kind of the economics with some of the carbon tax stuff as well, as kind of seeing a solution to this. We need, you know, Minnesota is going to feel the impacts. What can we do about it? This is leading into a little bit of the rest of the conference. We'll skip past this for now, but if I can go to the next slide. So, thank you very much, and I know this is a bit of a rush presentation. If you want to talk more about kind of the work that we're doing, the document that we're hoping to get out this semester and this summer, we're also going to be doing consensus conferences around the Twin Cities this summer, because St. Paul is working on a climate adaptation guide. And so my project is going to be helping to inform that process.
How about Minneapolis?
With the city. Minneapolis actually just finished their climate adaptation plan last summer. So they've already got one. We've been working with them quite a bit. And St. Paul is working on putting one together.